Yeah, so can I speak?
Yes, please go ahead. Who's that?
So myself, I'm Amal, sir.
Yeah, Aman, tell
So
me.
I'm not sure what the measure to
Hmm.
measure the performance of an employees.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, and why do we do that?
so that we can keep a systematic way of how they behave in
Is it just to do with behavior, or it
Yes,
is
for the
also
work
got to do
output
with
as
the
well.
work output? Yeah. So I was asking at Amal, I was asking if it is just got to do with regulating behaviors, or it is also got to do with work output.
output, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, can I
Yes,
add on
Ayushi,
to
you may
that?
please add on.
Actually, till I know, performance management system is a program in which is to match his mission, vision, and objectives to the objectives completed from employees. They here check in the performance aligned with the employees in a way that they can generation output they want from employees and employee of 100 vision and to this is
Some fun activities at workplace, but engagement is an all pervasive term which is a continuous process in terms of at every stage of an employee life cycle you have to engage the employee. So these days there's a lot of emphasis of even pre-board engagement. So even before you hire somebody, there's so much of branding that happens on instant and social medias. What is that primarily done to? So that's all that employer branding is primarily done to engage the prospective candidates across the organization. So understand the resources, and then finally, if everything's going well, when you find everything's going fine with you perfectly, everything's well, you'll find some of the other employees standing with you with another offer letter and saying that, I would want to move out of this organization because I am moving out for a better prospect. So these are some of your hard-hitting realities that you would look at in terms of managing the entire employee life cycle that you would face. Today, we'll be focusing on the management piece because I'm sure the topic that we've chosen is about talent management or performance appraisal. So in the next topic we might look at attracting or other areas, whichever you feel like. But today's topic that I chose was performance management. So we are technically looking at this management piece. So how do we manage once we've attracted our resources well and we've got them inside? How do we manage our resources well in terms of ensuring that they remain engaged, their development is also happening, and they continuously continue to remain? Because if you manage this piece pretty well, then I think half of your challenge is almost done and is taken care of. So let's understand what exactly managing a talent across the organization means. Understand, when we talk about talent management, performance management system remains the centerpiece for every exercise that you do during the management during the management of your talent. Why is that so? Because once, if you are able to manage your resources well, you will also have to ensure that you continuously evaluate their performances on every sphere and then reward them accordingly. So help me, I'll help you understand each of these aspects one after the other. Understand the performance management or the management of an individual in an organization starts with goal setting. So taking you back to a real time case scenario, let's say the moment you will hire somebody in your organizations that you would join, after its onboarding, everything is done, let's say the resource is being handed over to the talent management resource, or let's say the HRBP. What is the first area that you do? The first area that you do is you do a goal setting exercise with the reporting manager and this person, which primarily could be a exact goal setting exercise, or what you help the employee do is you at least hand him over a job description to help him understand that what are his specific areas that the person is supposed to take care of. Now, having said that, a lot of organizations which are very progressive in nature and which have a PMS piece in their place, they start with their goal setting exercise right from the moment the employee has joined. What do you do in a goal setting exercise? You do the setting of KRA and KPI. Now, here I would like to throw that question again. What do you understand by a KRA and a KPI? What would be the full form of a KRA and a KPI? Yes, anybody?
I do not know about KRA, but KPI is maybe key performance indicator, where you come to know about the indication of the key performances that are happening in the critical positions of the program that happens in the HR system.
What is KRA? KPI?
I do not. I'm not sure for KRA actually, sir.
Okay. What does it stands for? Anybody? See, these are two terms which you must know if you are going to be a HR professional. KRA stands for,
Something related to responsibility, but not
yeah.
at all
So
sure.
these are called as key result areas or key responsibility areas, which stands for KRA, and KPI stands for key performance indicators. Okay. Now I'll give you the difference between the two. KRA is basically the goals or the targets that you set, the key responsibility areas that you set across for your organization and also for the individual. So KRA is an all-pervasive term because when you look at it, it depends on the frames and the context that you're referring to. So organization-wide, we are currently not talking about. We're talking about purely from a performance management perspective. So we are looking at key responsibility areas of an individual who's across different roles. So your marketing guy, within marketing, you will have some subdivisions or sub functions. You will have different carriers. Let me quote you that example by quoting HR only. So in HR, you will have a talent acquisition guy. Somebody will be a learning and development guy. Somebody will be a compensation benefit guy. So you will have KRAs for each of these roles separate. So KRAs are your key responsibility areas, the areas that the key areas to which you contribute, basis which your productivity can be defined in the system and accordingly be evaluated for your rewards and to be paid accordingly. So that's how KRA stands for. Now, how do you reward and evaluate these KRAs against the KPIs? So KPIs are key performance indexes, or KPI. These KPIs will basically help you to understand how. So basically, they are measures. For example, if I have to say that you're a talent acquisition guy and your KRA is to ensure that all the positions, all the open positions are closed within 45 days from the day the position or the vacancy is notified. So that becomes one KRA. What is your KPI? Your KPI is turnaround time. The turnaround time, which is calculated to be less than 45 days from the date the vacancy is notified. So any open position for a KRA or any KRA for this talent acquisition person, I'm so sorry, would be evaluated basis the KRA KPIs that are already set in the system. So his KRA was to close all the position within a mandate of 45 days from the date the open position is notified to this person. Now his KRA is set, he knows that he is supposed to recruit for ABC, XYZ departments or ABC roles or XYZ number of positions which are open in the system, and the target given to him is about 45 days. Now this 45 days is basically the index basis which his performance will be evaluated. There will be some positions which the person might have closed before the turnaround time. There are some positions which might have closed beyond 45 days of time. So understand the KRA helps the person to understand that what exactly is supposed to do, whereas KPI helps measure the amount of input that has gone into, and the amount of making it more objective than making it subjective. So the objectivity of the KRA is evaluated by measuring it against its performance standards. So that's basically these KRA KPIs are very essential for every individual across the organization, and which is where the goal setting exercise comes into place while you start with your performance management system. So from the moment the person lands up and his KRAs are being set, the standard for what he's supposed to do throughout the year is done through a goal setting exercise. What happens is during these goal setting exercise, you will have, so there are organizations which follow a quarterly system of appraisals. There are organizations which follow a half-yearly review system, and there are organizations that follow an annual review system. Okay, so for an organization ideally which follows mostly a half-yearly annual review system, which will go back to the KRA, will review them half-yearly, and will ensure that whatever was being set at the starting of the year is being actually accomplished and is moving in the right direction. If not, realignment of goal is being done, and then you are again evaluated against the standards, and the correction is being made, and the remaining half year goes into the evaluation of the same. Likewise, for organizations which do an annual cycle of appraisal, will only do it by the end of the year. So what they do is they set the entire target for the entire year, and they don't go back to reviewing or revisiting the KRAs whether they are correct or not correct. Now, once the standards are set, goals are set, you've also done your mid-year reviews of understanding your goals and KRAs, you go back to the actual performance evaluation exercise. So when you do that, there are a lot of tools available basis which you do that. So I'm sure very popular is a bell curve that you must have heard. Then there are forced ranking methods. There are critical incident techniques. There are various other techniques which you balance scorecard. The various techniques that you involve while you're doing a performance appraisal exercise. So that performance appraisal exercise is done. Once that is done, you get to know who are your performers, who are your potential appraisals. So you also do a potential appraisals, which is mostly done through a competency assessment or a competency mapping exercise. Could be in-house also, could be out-house also, depends on how exactly the organization is looking at it. Once the entire evaluation of the person's goals, competencies is done, that's when the entire exercise of performance appraisal comes to a halt, and is a time where you would go back and look at the feedback mechanism for this particular person. Now feedback becomes a very essential part, because unless you don't go back and as managers don't tell the person that where the person was right, where the person was wrong, and how can the person further improve on his performance, then the entire exercise of evaluating, setting up these goals, evaluating the performance, evaluating the competence of that particular person goes for a toss, because the person, even after the appraisal, is not being told what are his gray areas or what are his areas of improvement that the person should work upon, to ensure that the objectivity of the entire exercise is being maintained, and the system is moving or the wheel is moving like it should have been moving. Now, once that is done, the next piece that you come across is total reward. So understand, these days when you would move out into the corporate world, you will see we don't follow that concept of CNB anymore. That CNB piece has changed from a CNB, calling it compensation benefits, to a total rewards. Just give me a minute. My phone is ringing for a while. I'll just give. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So, so when we look at this entire piece in terms of when you talk about CNB, these days when you move out to the corporate world, you will realize that CNB as a term is no more prevalent. All these organizations have progressed to a mechanism called total rewards. So total rewards not just involves your monetary rewards, but also your non-monetary rewards across the organization. So which could be in form of the LTIPs or any other non-monetary programs that the organizations introduce. So why are these being introduced? These are basically being introduced with the intent to ensure that when we are evaluating somebody's performance and when we are rewarding the individual, we just don't reward the person for the work that is being done. We also consider into the softer aspects of the individual while we are rewarding somebody's performance. Now, once that piece is done, so understand, till now whatever is being done is actually your performance appraisal management system. But when we talk about managing the talent as a whole, the next piece that gets added to the entire cycle of managing employee in an organization is the next wheel becomes the career progression cycle. Now, having said that, what we need to understand here is career progression is one of those important areas which a lot of progressive organizations today take care of predominantly, because they lay down those role based structures where you understand that, let's say, if you've joined an organization, let's say at an executive level, what level could you maximum grow up to? What would be your next growth area? How far can you go in an organization? Let's say if there's a glass ceiling. So what is a glass ceiling? Glass ceiling is, let's say, if a role can grow up to a manager level, or let's say a senior manager level, but post that there's no growth of that role in the organization. Why? Because if, let's say, understand, if somebody was doing talent acquisition can grow up to a GM level, but can that person become the head of HR? In some organizations, yes. But in some progressive organizations, if a person has been throughout only looking at talent management, it becomes difficult, talent acquisition, it becomes difficult for the organization to promote this individual to the next leadership role. Why? Because primarily this person doesn't have too much of an exposure to understand or to handle the other functions of HR, and which is where glass ceiling as a concept in HR has evolved, where, let's say, if your role can grow to an X level, that X level is defined at its glass ceiling, and post that level you cannot grow that role any further. So which is where career progression frameworks become very important. And when we talk about managing talent across the organization, once you've done the performance evaluation exercise or performance appraisal exercise, you also look at how career progressions will happen, how will the promotions happen, will there be scope, how do you manage your promotion cycles, how can you look at people's growth and development across the organization. That becomes another essential tool. Next important wheel that gets added to the entire piece of managing talent well is succession planning. So you start looking at who's your critical position, how does that critical position contributes to the organization's output, what is the percentage of output it is bringing in. Let's say what is the threat involved in terms of, if let's say this position tomorrow was, if this role or this person who holds this role was vulnerable to getting poached by any other organization which is a competition. So what is the threat that is involved? So threat in terms of the continuity of business. So if let's say if X person was handling a role which was critical, and if he is being taken away by a competition, what is the loss? What is the number? What is the critical impact or the loss that the organization is going to suffer? So all that is being taken into account while we start doing a succession planning exercise. So succession plans, they help you understand that how do you keep the bench strength strong in your organization, your dependency on one particular role is being minimized, and you don't just wait on for anything, any movements or any critical uh, areas to develop in your organization, and then you act upon it. So succession planning acts as a wall or a barrier in terms of understanding who your high potential candidates are and how can you attract and retain them better in the organization and continue with them as your own resource, making them less vulnerable for the market. So that's another piece of managing talent well in the organization. And the last piece that we talk about is learning and development, where we start putting learning. So well, there was a time when we all used to talk about L&D, L&D, L&D. Now L&D is evolved from, so instead of just doing a batch programs, now L&D has evolved to a level where people are looking at how can we create individual learning paths. So if an organization, if you are dealing with a high potential guy or a low potential performer, you would look at how can you create individual learning paths. So what will be for what the individual learning path for a high performer will be very different from an individual learning path for a low performer. So understand that these concepts over a period of time has evolved drastically, and if we don't start going back to getting into a relevant knowledge and don't start doing our research with what exactly is being practiced, what is being preached in the classes, it becomes very difficult for you to form a sync while you move out from campus to corporate. So understand that these concepts help you understand the entire how do you manage your talent across the organization better and in a little more organized manner. Now, when we talk about how do we manage, we've looked at that the entire piece, all these goal setting, potential appraisal, rewards, career progression, succession planning, all has been revolving around performance appraisal system. So let's understand that how do we do a PMS. To understand a PMS, understand that the very important term is to the setting of goals, which is where I was when Ayushi was talking about the entire process, which is popularly known as MBO, which is management by objective. What we do in this entire process is we look at the organization's mission, we look at the organization's vision, we look at where do we want to, what do we want to achieve, where do we want to reach, how far can we go, and what areas can be taken care of, and we talk about such areas, and then we start revolving around the objectives, or let's say so to give you a classic example of an MBO is you must have heard of the 5-year plans that government comes up. So these 5-year plans are basically nothing that they're a sort of MBO. What they're trying to do is just that in government you have so many people to take care of. So the basic requirement of the individual or the economy is that you would need income, you need purchasing power, you need money in your hand, and then you would also need the food and the shelter, the other basic needs that we talk about. So what the government does is they make 5-year plans to ensure that how do they, what do they want to achieve, what is that they would want to address, and likewise the people who are working in the government or for whom they are working, basically gets, so they are working for people, and then people should see that benefit in the organization when those 5-year plans comes to an end. So likewise, when we talk about MBO, is a similar process that organization follows. Organization looks at where it wants to be, what all it wants to achieve, and at the same time would also like to address the needs of its employees. So management by objectives is a process where the entire mission, vision of the organization, its end outputs, what it wants to achieve, is being aligned to employees, and understand that what expectations do the employees have out of the organization, and then a mutual understanding and a goal setting is done to help everybody understand that if we do this, this is where the organization is going to go, and if the organization is going to go here, from here, this is how you would be rewarded and how much you would be rewarded. So that entire process of MBO boils down to setting the KRA KPIs, which is key result areas, measured by key performance indexes or key performance matrix. Then your goal setting process starts. So the entire goal setting starts at the start of the year. The HR announces that the employees, so they will basically, you will go back to your business heads or your sales heads or your function heads and tell them that, see, the goal setting process has started. You will have to tell your people that the goals, they have to set their goals for a particular year. The evaluation methods could be N, which we'll discuss in the upcoming slides. Then there's a feedback process to the entire evaluation, that once you set the goals, the evaluation by the end of the year, or however cycles you've set. So if it's a half yearly cycle, or if it's an annual cycle, if it's a quarterly cycle, or it's a biannual cycle, then in that way you would address and evaluate your performance. Then, like I said in the previous slides, that feedback forms a very essential process, because once you do the evaluation, if you don't give the person the required feedback as to how the person has developed and what the person should ideally be looking at, then it becomes very difficult for anybody to understand and address the needs that the person has in terms of improvement and development. Accordingly, once that is done, your rewards or your compensation, so आप जो annual appraisal exercise की बात कर रहे हो, जब appraisal हो जाता है, उस appraisal के बाद you get your rewards. So rewards are nothing but your appraisal letters and your increase in your pay or your compensation. Some of those evaluation exercise, like I said, when we say total rewards, it's not just about increasing your pay, but it is also involved that a lot of organizations facilitate high performers. They are being sent to trips, they are being given rewards, or they are being given trophies, also acknowledged as employee of year. All that is done and linked with the appraisal exercise that we have, that we are talking about right now over here. And then finally it leads to the development plan. So for people who performed really well, you will create a development plan for your high potential performers, and likewise you will also create a development plan for your low performers, which is people who haven't done really well in this year's appraisal cycle. So a quick picture of how management of objective happens. So there's a top line and there's a bottom line. Now, before I get down to top line, bottom line, I would want to ask that question to you. What do you understand by a top line or a bottom line? I'm sure everybody is in the first year of MBA, right? At least has done the first semester.
In top line, sir, includes top level management employees like CEO, CFO, and the head of the company are included in the top level management.
Top line, when you must have heard this term called top line. Top management, of course I understand it includes all these people. There's a term called top line and bottom line. It's a very important and a crucial term, mostly used by marketing professionals, but these days it has come to evolve with every function in every organization. Every function has a top line and a bottom line. So top line means the strategy of the organization, what strategic initiatives or strategic intent the organization follows is your top line. So let's say, I'm just quoting an example hypothetically to help you understand, not that it is actually like that. So let's say अगर मैं बात करता हूँ, let's say think of a brand, let's say Colgate, okay? So Colgate says that we would want to protect your teeth, and we are there for your oral care and oral health and all of that. That's their top line. That's what they're projecting to people, that their strategic intent is to improve or improvise oral health and oral care of the organization and all of that, and they stand for it. But whereas what do they mean by bottom line? The bottom line, when Colgate starts talking about its bottom line, it would start talking about how much is the market penetration, how much is the revenue. So basically, bottom line is basically your revenue and the incomes that you have achieved, and strategy and top line is all your strategy and all your efforts that you do or you build in terms of meeting those bottom lines. So top line is basically your strategic intent or your strategy, or your bottom lines are basically your profits. If anybody is going to ask you that question anywhere, you can point blank quote that top line is the strategy of the organization, whereas the bottom line is the profits that they draw out of the organization. The organization draws out of the market is your bottom line. So you can Google it also. You will get those similar answers for you to prepare. But then it's very important, very crucial for all 66 of you present in the meeting to understand these terms and these terminologies, because these are terms which, after you are through with your management, the organizations would expect you to know. Okay. So when we talk about MBO, we are looking at the top line and the bottom line, which is company's goal. That is being synced. Then once that is done, the functional goal. So every function will have their own share from the MBO. So अगर मैं HR वाला हूँ, मेरा share होगा that I have to get so many resources so that the resources are completely available. I will have to ensure their continuous performance. I will have to do their training and development. That's how my goals are designed from the top line of the company. कि अगर मुझे ये करना है तो HR वालों को ये करना पड़ेगा, मार्केटिंग वालों को ये करना पड़ेगा, फाइनेंस वालों को ये करना पड़ेगा. So that's how the entire alignment of goal happens. So you have top line and bottom line. From the top line, the bottom line comes the functional objectives. From functional objectives comes the regional objectives. From regional objectives to the department objectives and the individual objectives. So ऐसे करके हमारी goal setting exercise follow होती है. Now once the goal setting exercise is done, like I said, I further explained. Sorry, I jumped another slide. So when we talk about MBO, जो हम individual level पे आ जाते हैं, तो individual level पे what do we understand by KRA KPI? KRA KPI is a key responsibility areas and measured by key performance indicators. So let's assume that if I was supposed to do a KRA KPI like how I explained earlier to you through a example of HR, let's this time look at a role called Manager Customer Service Development. What is the KRA for this particular person? To drive customer satisfaction for the organization. Now, if that's the KRA, how do I measure whether this person is doing well or not? So to measure that, I have to put a KPI. The KPI will be 100% accomplishment of customer loyalty scores. Now, if the customer is satisfied, there is always a customer survey that happens that every organization conducts. Don't as of now, don't limit yourself to thinking that उन सर्वे में से that how many people participate in these surveys. So whatever number of people participate, we are saying that the customers who participated should give you 100% accomplishment of loyalty scores. If so, that is your KPI. If that is not happening, then possibly your job is not being done accurately. And then how will you measure that is being done? How will you ensure that these things are being done accurately? You define the actions and the tasks. So you introduce a customer loyalty scheme, timely resolution of customer complaints. This is what a person is supposed to do. So see, understand this is how crucial or how big the entire process of goal setting is when you talk about a performance appraisal system or a performance management system. Unless you understand the goal setting process in detail, the MBO process in detail, you would not be able to drive a performance appraisal system or a performance management system accurately the way it should be. Okay, so it's very crucial for each and every person in the organization to follow that to the core. So once we've done that, what we come down to, once the goal setting is done, we start evaluating those processes. So one of the most famous processes is the forced ranking process. So forced ranking is also known as the bell curve method. You will have a bell curve which will be designed by the organization. The bosses will tell you that, let's say, the top rating of so A, B, C, D. If you follow 5-pointer scale, so they will tell you that in a forced ranking method, so a bell curve defines to what level a percentage of population can be assigned to a particular rating. That's exactly a bell curve. So hota kya hai? You will have all your top performers for an organization to be limited to 20. The next following set of the good performers but not so bad performers, above average performers, to be limited at, let's say, 30. the 20, 30, 50 you've completed here, then almost 60. So 50 you've completed here. Then you'll have, let's say, about 40% of the population which is at average, 10% of the population which remains at, at just uh, par of the performance, and then 1%, or let's say some 5% at the bottom of the pyramid. So that's how the ratings are distributed. I'm not saying that these are the ratings, or these are, every organization that follows a different number of percentage to be apportioned at each of these levels. So when you have these 5 ratings, all those 5 ratings are defined at different percentage of rating that is being given to the people. And then when you as HR professionals will go back to them, will tell them, let's say that if the biggest challenge that you will find with your line managers is everybody will say, all my people are doing a great job, everybody is to be rated 4 or 5, and then you will have to push them to bring them to a process of saying that, okay, let us understand how, if you're saying all of them are performing well, let us look at their goal setting exercise. And which is where HRs have to be very smart in terms of doing a goal setting exercise, because what will happen is managers, while you're doing a goal setting exercise, if the HR lets it loose, and let's only the functional managers or the line managers decides on the goal, then what, by the end of the year, if you haven't reviewed it, what you will realize is the goals were meant or written in such a fashion that you will find it difficult to do a normalization exercise. And what is this normalization exercise? And when you see all your line managers putting everybody on a 4 or a 5, you will have to go back and negotiate with them and helping them understand that, see, not everybody can be rated a 4 or a 5. And then if you're saying that everybody is doing so, then let's quickly review their goal cards or their goal setting process, where what goals were assigned to them and how they have accomplished. And that's how you negotiate and start fitting them into a bell curve, saying that, okay, these people, yes, have accomplished their task, so yes, you can put them under a 5. These set of people whom you've set 5, they haven't accomplished everything to the required level, so these needs to be shifted to 4. These needs to be shifted to the X number of population needs to be shifted to 3, 2, 1. So that process of shifting the entire exercise is called a normalization of bell curve. Once the bell curve is being normalized, then the managers and the subordinate, a feedback mechanism is supposed to take care. Just give me a minute. There's a phone call. Hello. Hello. I'm so sorry for the distraction. So, like I said, then that's when the feedback is supposed to happen, and then accordingly, once the feedback is given, likewise you will be evaluated for your appraisals, for your ratings. So let's say all the top performers will get an X percentage of increment, all the 4% performers will get a Y percentage of increment. Likewise, the average people will get an X percentage of increment. So that's how the entire appraisal exercise moves in an organization. Now, and that's how it comes to an end. Now, understand there are 2-3 terms which are very evolving terms in the process today of performance appraisal system. One of which is a 360-degree appraisal exercise. So, what do you understand by a 360 degree appraisal? Quickly. Anybody?
So, is it a system where you are judged by the people around you? Like, even your subordinates and peer groups will be judging you?
Right. So today I'll give you a very logical example of why it is being called as a 360 degree. Understand every increment that you, every appraisal that you do, okay, has a 90 degree of impacts. I'll tell you, I'll help how. So in an appraisal process, I will first set my goals. So that is first 90. Okay. Just give me a minute. My office is coming.